All right, so I put a lot in the title of this video, Tactile Haptics, Motion, G-Force, History and the Future. So I have a lot I want to cover, and some of this I'm also going to talk about some things that are under wraps and also probably not well known to some people. For starters, let me get a little perspective going on this. This is obviously my rig that reflects my preferences and my taste and so forth, and it deals with the limitations I have to live with within the space that I have, etc. So it's not going to be, the holy grail for everybody, but it's what I have. I think it's important to realize that there are a lot of different paths that people go down for rigs. So there's no one perfect anything. Everybody has a different idea on what they want their rig to be. But there are a few truths. First, every time I think my rig is done, it's not. Can't say how many times I've thought it was finished. I was wrong. On top of that, every time I think something is as good as it can get, I'm wrong. Something better comes up. Let me give you a case in point. I got the SE2 Pro a little while back, and I was not blown away when I first got it. I worked on configuring things, I browsed the internet, saw what some settings were, and I got it okay, but I was not blown away. Then TrueDrive came out with cloud profiles and allowed you to just look at a list of profiles that other people had rated. You could see, oh, well, here's 50 profiles for this one title, and these are rated very highly, and you could pick the ones you wanted to try out and see what you thought of them, and then and decide which ones you wanted to use. And I found some that I was real happy with. It made me very glad I purchased this. So getting to the it's never as good as you think. So this morning, somebody in the Good Vibrations group made a comment that David Morad had just put his GT3/LMP profiles out on the TrueDrive in the cloud profile area for iRacing, and it was posted by someone who said that they scour all the different forums looking for the best settings, and said these were absolutely amazing and better than anything he's seen anywhere. So always getting better. So keep in mind that software is huge and the configuration is huge to maximizing performance of anything that you have out here. Okay, so getting back to the history, I'm going to start talking about tactile for a few. 5 years ago I got a copy of SimVibe, had a few $50 AS or Aura transducers, and first time I felt vibrations. I had one bolted to the underside of my seat, I had something on my brake pedal and something else on my shift lever, and I felt something, and I was excited. How could it get any better than this? Anyway, needless to say, a lot better. SimHub comes along, and a guy over there who goes by whatever has been working on that and improving it a lot over the years. It started out as being just here's a free thing, and then it got to the point where it was substantially better than SimVibe. And about that time, another guy who was getting into tactile very seriously, who goes by Mr. Latte, got involved. To say he was a polarizing force is a bit of an understatement, but let's just cover what happened here from a historical perspective. So he hits the scene and he starts talking about what he's found, and he set up measuring equipment and set up an interesting isolation rig and tried out various transformers and figured out how to isolate parts of your rig so the transducers could be more efficient. So he developed the isolation and settled on a set of transducers that he thought worked really well together. He liked the BK LFEs and the the TSTs, and they're complementary transducers where one starts real low and then still pretty low, starts dipping down but has massive power, and then the other one picks up after that and extends way out. So he wanted a larger frequency range to work with. He wanted to distribute his effects over multiple transducers, and by isolating, like the seat here, he could get more power. And because you're not running the transducers near their limits, you could get more effects through the transducers without them muddying each other up and drowning each other out. So running at lower power levels on them allowed you to get more and feel more. So he was onto a lot. And then he wanted DSPs so that you could set the curve around the effective range of the transducer and cut it off after that so you didn't hear noise, so the transducers could be quiet. It's also a good thing. You can also tweak them to adjust the characteristics a little, like maybe there's a little drop in a certain frequency and you could tweak for it. So he got working on that stuff, and then he started working with really complicated profiles where an effect could have multiple layers per transducer generating harmonics, and it just blew. I mean, all the stuff that we've been playing with up until that point, this was at a completely different level. So this was kind of big, and he wanted to get it in more people's hands. Now, part of that was he was trying to tell everybody exactly how to do something because he wanted to make sure everyone would feel the same effects he was feeling. So there was a lot of debate and animosity because people felt like he was telling them exactly how to do something. And rifts were formed, and anyway, things got a little bit ugly. But he decided to trademark the race-based name. He got with a company called SimTag. So he was working with SimTag because they put together fairly high-end rigs where they pre-build them for actual race car drivers. And when they drove the rig that had the race-based effects, they all liked it and wanted that. So, okay. So he's getting some good feedback and he's starting to feel pretty good about that. So this evolves a little bit more. There's another guy, Peter Winkler, who comes in, and he ends up creating a Discord server for RaceBase. And I came in, I designed the tactile plate here, a couple, the brackets that go around it, and SimTag would then sell the plate and the brackets in the isolation so that people could have a standard way of affixing their transducers to the underside of the seat that would still allow, seat sliders. And I mean, this is a little bit overkill. It's designed to allow up to 4 large BKs and 2 TSTs. So I've got one of each on here, and I'm happy with that. But moving on. So we end up with a system where people buy the SimTag race-based hardware. They get sent an invitation to the Discord server, and then Peter would create documentation, and Rodney was working on all the effects, and people would come there, and it started generating a pretty nice little environment. It was a happy environment where there wasn't any infighting. Everybody was following the rules as per Mr. Latte and getting great results. So all that was going pretty well. But a lot of people started getting unhappy because there's a paywall involved. People had to buy hardware to get an invitation, and then there was donations and so forth. Anyway, it got messy. So things evolved from there. We had a big, I guess you'd call it a come to Jesus meeting. I wasn't interested in running a company. I didn't care. This was a passion project for me. And to be clear, I never made a penny off of anything, period. All the 3D printed stuff I have in my rig, I've shared all kinds of, I've got nearly, somewhere in the 40s now for just 3D printed models on Thingiverse and printables that you can download for free. And I didn't make a penny off of any of this. And now, SimTag was nice enough to send me a copy of the plate and the brackets that I designed, so I do appreciate that. But anyway, we decided we didn't want any money involved at all, and so something completely new came out of it. It's called Good Vibrations. It's another Discord server, but it's not everything just one way, and it's grown from there. So we're now dealing with, we've got people talking about motion systems, all kinds of motion systems. This isn't just, what I own or one other person. I mean, actually, I guess Peter's running SFX 100. I'm running D-Box, and other people are running different things, and that's fine. This is not an exclusionary place. In fact, if anything, there's a whole lot of interesting ideas coming together. We have a whole section dedicated to the G-Belt, and people have been sharing their profiles. And what you find with this is, in order to get the most out of it, everything needs to work together. So you've got some things that are motion, some things that are tactile, you've got the force feedback, you've got the seat belt tensioning, and when it's done right, it's magical. So what I'm saying is, Good Vibrations has become a place where a lot of people with higher end rigs and people who are trying to learn how to make their rigs better and leverage the experience of people who've spent the time to tweak the profile so that you've got, let's say in the G-Belt, you've got a bumps effect, which complements what you get through your suspension, which can also complement what you're getting through your transducers, and it can all work together. And sometimes I've got effects where I'm running a combination of things. Now, getting into one subject, I mean, I'm running D-Box, and D-Box has their own haptics. And they're not bad, but let me explain how I'm using them. So some of what they do takes away from motion. And with a Gen 5, I don't have a whole lot of movement going on here. I'm also not going to go on and on about how this is plenty. It works great for track use. It works well in rally. In flight, it's not enough, but let's stop there. The key thing that I'm getting to, though, is that getting everything to work together is a marriage of different technologies. This is not exclusionary. So I'm not going to tell you that, oh, if you have D-Box haptics, you don't need tactile. I simply don't agree. They're okay, but I like the wheel slide a whole lot better tactile. For engine vibration, oh, and I'm going to get to that in a second, there's just no way you can even come close, but let's save that for a sec. The way it works, you can have a number of tactile effects and have suspension effects, and even use some haptics as it makes sense. And that's going to vary from person to person, but that's how we set things up. Now, let's get to the future. So the Good Vibrations group is growing, and it's been a very productive and it's been a very supportive group where people are helping each other. And we're trying to be kind of agnostic about, what we're dealing with there. So there's not a whole lot of, you need to buy this one thing. We've got people using a pile of different types of brake systems right now, for example. We've got people with lots of different types of motion. We're not trying to get religious about any of that. But what we are trying to do is share some pretty good things. So we've still got the latest iteration, I think that Peter had made based on the race-based tactile effects that Rodney helped put together. And they feel really good, and I'm real happy with them. All right, had a technical difficulty. So what I was saying was that we currently still have the best iteration that we had of effects based on Rodney's race-based stuff. We have some new stuff coming, and it's pretty exciting. And it almost boggles the mind because of how it's doing things. So with the race-based stuff, we had the we had the Stream, whatever, the Stream Deck XL profiles where you could flip between like a V6, V8, V10, various engines, lots of different RPM options, and some of them are very good. So that's pretty cool, and they work well. But what's coming is it kind of blows that so far into the rear view. It's a little bit funny. So there's a guy who goes by Cersei's that you may have seen in the Sim Hub forum if you're into that. He's developed his own plugin that works inside of Sim Hub, and he's taking a more mathematical approach to generating the engine vibration feeling, and so it interrogates just about every title out there. So it doesn't matter if you're into a set of Corsa or iRacing or Dirt Rally or whatever. It knows what title you're in. It knows what car you're driving. It knows what engine you're driving. It has a database of all the different engines for every sim title that almost anyone uses. And then from there, it knows the displacement, the number of cylinders, the angle, the red line, and it calculates the engine RPM range and how it should feel. I mean, dynamically. You change a car, it goes, oh, you're in a little 4-cylinder now. Oh, you're in a big V8, and it adjusts based on that. I find this it's unreal. For starters, once again, you've got people giving back to the community who are passionate and are building really amazing things. And we've got guys building Stream Deck profiles so that you can drive all of this stuff. We've got a bunch of people who are testing this and putting in lots of time to figure out what feels best. Oh, and by the way, these new profiles are not just for engines. There's a pile of other stuff coming too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the Good Vibrations server has become just an excellent forum for discussion between people supporting each other, sharing ideas, and figuring out the best way to make different parts of a rig work together real well. And there are just so many people who are very active and answering questions from other people. We've always got a new person who, just put in a G-belt, or just installed a motion system, or they're just, and we still have a whole lot of tactile stuff specifically in there too, but we've got a lot of people who are setting up different tactile systems and playing with different things. And I mean, the original race-based idea is good. We've got people who have all kinds of exciters, rumble motors, and full-size transducers on brake pedals. We've got people, we've got people doing a lot of things, and that's the cool part. And we don't have anybody pushing anything down anyone's throats. We have opinions. People will explain why they did things a certain way, but it is the most constructive environment I've ever seen in an area where people can, you get the Ford versus Chevy type of stuff going on, and we really don't have much of that. It's very, very, it's a very positive environment. So I'm very happy to be a part of it, and I appreciate the efforts of a lot of people, and I left a lot of names out, but I mean, Peter's done a fantastic job. He worked tirelessly with Rodney in the beginning, testing out profile after profile, effect after effect, getting things figured out, trying them out on different titles, and then putting together a huge document. And then he did a lot of cool work on the Stream Deck XL. And then from there, other people have done additional work. They've added libraries of icons and and various menus to drive things. I mean, once there was a plugin for SimHub that allowed you to trigger and turn effects on and off and make adjustments. People were all over that. So once again, you just you get a new piece of software out there and people take advantage of it. So getting the most out of a rig, it's quite a journey. And when you've got so many people who are so passionate, contributing at so many different levels, it's just that much more fun. So all I can say is I'm really glad to be associated with this group of people. Despite some of the negativity that surrounded the race base, a whole lot was started there. So, I mentioned Rodney as being a focal point of a lot of, polarization, but he really started something here. And we don't see him enough, but he contributed vastly, and a lot of people have run in a lot of directions since then. And I don't want to short anybody's efforts, and I feel like I've benefited much more from everyone else's work than I've contributed myself. I mean, I generated some stuff in Fusion 360, and I'm happy the plate works well, and it's adjustable and it fits all kinds of widths of seat, and it can handle a lot more transducers than I'll ever have under it. I mean, it can handle like 4 butt kicker LFEs and a couple large TSTs, and you can adjust it by like 1 centimeter heights, and it's a very, I don't know, well, I'll stop patting myself on the back. I like it, it works well. I'm glad SimTag sent me a copy. But once again, this is a completely free site. Everybody is contributing their time and effort, and just for the joy of it. And that's the way a hobby should be. So I'm going to leave on that note. It's fun. Later.